There we go. If you guys want to ask any questions, I ask you to do that in the chat or click your raise your hand feature and I'll call on you so you can ask your question of David. I trust that everybody got the slides for this session. And if you didn't, just tell me in the chat and I'll email it to you real quick. So David, I think I'm just going to turn it over to you.
All right, that sounds great. Welcome everybody. I am so, again, honored, thrilled, privileged to join you today. And we're going to go on this journey together. We're going to learn together because, just today we have already had a really, really great idea from Angie that she's taking this recording and sharing it with her board members and helping them. We ended last time with training. And Angie, that's a phenomenal idea to just take this and use it as part of the training for your board. So great idea. And those ideas are going to continue to come today. So let's continue to learn together. Again, honored, thrilled, privileged to be here today. David Nicole, founder of Headwinds Consulting. Where we were last time is we talked about how to build a healthy board. And like I said, we ended with that board training. And so what we're going to be covering today, really, every board member should know. And it's really really every single board member should know this information. Every executive director should know this information. And I'll tell you, when I started as the CEO of an organization, these concepts were not clear to me. I made a number of missteps and they became clear to me over my tenure, right? But I really wish I had some of these concepts shared with me before I took the role of CEO. So I'm going to share my screen. All right, let me do one more thing. So you should all be seeing So the nonprofit workshop, you can all see that, right? All right, because you never quite know if it's actually going to get shown, right? So, okay. So today, board member responsibilities. By the way, next time, we're going to get into where boards go wrong. So board member responsibilities 102 is what happens when boards go sideways, right? So today, and by the way, I want to give some credit to where I've gotten a lot of this information. I keep right by my desk the 10 responsibilities of board members. It is the 10 basic responsibilities of nonprofit boards. It is the Bible of nonprofit board responsibilities, right? It's put out by BoardSource. And so majority of the information you're going to see today is from BoardSource. It's also from the Council of Nonprofits. And I have had another individual who has taught me a lot of this from the United Way perspective, and that is Keith Sarber, who happens to be on with us today. So Keith has done quite a bit of training in this, and so Keith, you might see some of your stuff in here too. But today we're really going to take a look at accountability. We're going to take a look at the 3 legal duties of a board of directors. And then we're going to take a look at the 10 basic responsibilities of a board of directors. One, you'll learn that I have a very dry sense of humor if you haven't learned that already. Accountability. It is something that a lot of people shy away from, but at the same time, it is one of the most critical things inside a nonprofit. And so I'm going to open it up so in the chat, and then we're going to discuss who is the board of directors accountable to. So go ahead, take 15, 30 seconds, and type your response into, all right, I gotta make that bigger. Program, staff, stakeholders, donors, community, one another, other board members. Okay. Executive director, IRS, nonprofit law, right? The state. Community stakeholders, other board members, God, community. All right, clients. Donor sponsors. So the answer is yes. The board of directors has a responsibility, and they are held accountable for the organization. So how the organization goes, I should say, how the board of directors goes, so goes the organization, right? And the board of directors is held accountable by one another, is held accountable by the state, by the IRS, from a government perspective, and, but most importantly, to the community. One of the most important factors of a nonprofit is trust. And if a nonprofit does not have trust, they're pretty much sunk, right? Now, it's possible to lose trust and regain trust. But as you know, organizations are not trusted a whole lot today in general, just given where we are as a society. And so transparency and taking accountability when something does go wrong, and sharing, okay, this is what happened, and we are transparent in how we handle that. That is critical to do. So the next question, and so we'll put this in the chat as well. Who are individual board members accountable to? So you have a board of directors that is made up of anywhere between 3 to, I've seen boards as large as 65. Don't join one of them. Who are individual board members responsible to? Who are they accountable to? Each other, other board members, each other, community, board president, greater board, staff, community, mission, right? Executive director, community. So each board member has one vote, whether they're the board chair, whether they're a member at large, or whether they are the treasurer of the organization. They have one vote and in the body of the board of directors. Board members are accountable to one another. And we wrapped up last time talking about board member accountability, and we sent out what was that? Sorry, my brain just died. We sent out an accountability piece, right, for an evaluation for the board, both board members to take about the entire board, but also self-reflection on themselves. And so really, board members are accountable to each other. Who can remove a board member are other board members. Typically, what you see in bylaws is the removal of board members is done by other board members, and it can only be done by other board members. So having that clarity up front that the board of directors is accountable to community and other stakeholders and the government, right? But in general, I'd say the board of directors is accountable for the organization as a whole and owns, if you would, the organization. Individual board members are responsible to one another. Does that make sense? Okay. So we're going to put a quick poll up. And so the question is, so go ahead, Margarita, but the question is, does your organization have directors and officers insurance? So Margarita, if you would go ahead, put that poll up. All right. Quick yes or no. And again, if you say, what is directors and officers insurance? Go ahead, click no. I understand that. All right. What are the responses that we got, Margarita?
Okay, I'm going to end the poll.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. So we've got about 60% that have it and about 40% that don't. For those of you that do not have it, let me make a recommendation. Get directors and officers insurance. When I was hired as the CEO at the United Way of Allen County, the first thing that I did was I asked to see their directors and officers insurance. And I wanted to read it because at one point in time, a former organization that I was with did not have D&O insurance. Let me tell you a quick story about a Boys and Girls Club. So in Charleston, the Boys and Girls Club went out of business. And it had, through a number of different circumstances, right? But the organization ended up going out of business. They had 10 board members and they went out of business with $160,000 in debt. Each of those board members, because they had not renewed their D&O insurance policy, owed $16,000, and they were personally liable for that $16,000. When we talk about accountability and ownership, and when we recruit board members need to understand they own the organization, right? Now, keep in mind, Indiana law is slightly different. And I do not believe that in Indiana, an individual can be personally held liable for the debt of a nonprofit. And again, I believe that Indiana law is slightly different. But it goes to show that when something goes haywire inside an organization, you need to have protection. You need to do the due diligence, which we're going to get into here shortly. But being a board member is not something to be taken lightly. And it is a significant role because you have accountability to both the organization and the community. If you don't have D&O insurance, get it, please. Please. All right. So there are 3 legal duties that boards have. And they are the duty of care, the duty of loyalty, and the duty of obedience. And the duty of care really describes the level of competence that is expected of a board member. It from a legal term, and I'm going to read this right, the legal term is the care that an ordinarily prudent person would exercise in a like position and under similar circumstances. Okay, so that's the duty of care. So be informed, attend meetings, those types of things. It is understood that there is a reliance on others, that a board doesn't know every single thing about an organization, but it's a business judgment rule, if you would. Duty of loyalty is a standard of faithfulness, right? It is a board member must give undivided allegiance when making decisions. A board member cannot gain or I should say, must never use any of the information that they learn for personal gain, right? And then duty of obedience is where is really in the public's trust of the organization and how the organization is going to manage funds and fulfill the organization's mission. It's adhering to the laws, the bylaws, and the mission of the organization, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're going to break into 3 different groups for about 10 minutes, I believe. We're going to break into 3 different groups. Each group is going to be, so one group is going to be duty of care, one group is going to be duty of loyalty, one group is going to be duty of obedience. And the question is, so before we go in there, right, the individual that is born closest to today will be doing a report out from that group, okay? So first thing you need to do is figure out whose birthday is closest to today, right? And then the question that you're answering is, how does or could my organization practice this legal duty, okay? So that's the question that you're answering, and then so brainstorm, think through it for about 10 minutes as a group, and then come back. You'll be reporting back, how does or could your organization practice either, depending on your room, the duty of care, the duty of loyalty, or the duty of obedience. Okay.
David, quick question.
Yes, Brad.
How will each room know which duty they are assigned?
So each room is titled with the legal responsibility. All right. Thank you, Brad, for the question. I appreciate it. Margarita, are we ready to go?
We are ready.
Okay, let's go ahead and do it. We'll see you back in the main room.
Hang on.
The beauty of Zoom, right?
It's not letting me do it, David. I apologize.
Okay. Well, we can work with that.
Hang on, here we're going.
Okay. Oh, maybe I need to stop sharing. I'll stop sharing. How's that?
Is everybody in the room yet?
Nope.
Okay, hang on just a second.
Ah, there we go. Hit join.
Just a couple more.
I'm not assigned to a group.
Gotcha.
I joined late. I'm sorry.
There you go.
Thank you.
Everybody should be assigned to a room.
Hey, I was in with Debbie, so I
okay.
popped out.
Let me
I don't know if do you want to put me in, since I can't really comment on any of the, I'm happy to stay in the lobby with you.
Okay, I've got Logan, I've assigned you to a room. You just have to, there you go. Yeah, if you want to, we can just stay on mute if you want. Once David pops back in, I'll send him to another one.
Yeah, I mean, I can go. It's whatever you think. It's just I don't really have anything to contribute for anybody. So.
You're fine.
I can't talk on the DECO Foundation board, as you know.
You're fine.
It is not my morning with technology. I don't know why my internet just keeps fluxing up and down. So.
And heads up, we're being recorded too. David and I were chit-chatting through the last one, and I thought, I think that's on the recording.
It seems it is. Well, good thing we said nothing incriminating of any sort. Do you know with those recordings, can you edit and crop them? Like, can you crop your beginning? Like, if you started it earlier, do you know?
I don't know, because, you know, I just record them and send them out. So I don't know if I can. I know I can upload them. I have to upload them to my YouTube account so I can send them out, but I don't know if there's a way. I would love to cut this part out.
For sure. And just staring at our faces. I can Google that in the meantime.
Okay, because that's what I do is I uploaded into my YouTube account and then I share the link.
Okay, I'll start Googling. I'll see what I can find out.
Hey, Margarita, can you send me to the duty of loyalty?
Absolutely.
Hey, Margarita, it looks like you can.
Wonderful. You'll just have to show me how to do it.
Yep. It looks like in the playback feature, there's little scissors on the little playback bar, and then you can just select the sections that you want to crop. So,
Okay.
And maybe it's even a matter of like saving it in a couple segments, but it would still crop out. So,
Okay.
if that's helpful. If you want me to help do it, I'm happy to do
Yes.
that too.
Yes. I can upload it to the YouTube. Well, you'd have to, I can't upload it to the YouTube account and then share it with you.
No, because I wouldn't be able to edit from there. It looks like you can edit directly in the Zoom account in the recordings tab. So maybe we can.
I should have probably stopped recording. That would have probably been the easiest. Hey, yeah. This is only my second one in this thing. So I normally do not record these things, but yeah.
I think we can learn from it, and I'm happy to help with the editing part because I think we're going to start using Zoom at the foundation. So it would be good for me to know.
Oh, I love it. I love it because I can, those polls that David does, I put them in the Zoom. So it's already like, when I open up my Zoom, they're already there. So when I set up my Zoom, I can put the polls in there so they're already ready and I don't have to do them while I'm in the meeting.
Oh, nice.
The breakout rooms were the only things, like he wanted the names changed. I had to wait till I opened it up and started the meeting to create those breakout rooms and stuff. The issue is that I was going to have the system randomly select people into each room, like throw them into each room. But when I went in to change the names, it changed that on me. So I had to manually click people into those rooms. That's why you and Debbie ended up in the same room, because I was just clicking here. Yeah.
Okay.
But it was fast. I did it anyway. Nobody knew that I messed up. So
Nope, not a big deal at all.
If you don't change the name of the rooms, then you can just automatically click it and say randomly send people to 3 rooms, and it'll randomly send them to 3 rooms.
Okay. It's pretty cool software. It's just a matter of, I've only really used it for grant reviews, just this, I haven't done any of the extra features on it because it's just me and one other person.
I use it with my Pulse kids.
Oh, nice.
And I love it because I can kick them into breakout rooms, and they can, if they have a service project and it's per school because, the COVID, I have to separate them. Hey, David, do you want me to kick you somewhere else?
Yep, go ahead, put me into the duty of obedience.
There you go.
Thank you.
Anywho, my kids love to work on stuff within their own school. So we're doing acts of kindness this month. So each school is going out on their own, but they're able to talk and discuss in the breakout rooms how they're going to do that service project. And then if they were here, they would be in different areas, discussing. So it's almost like they were here, but they're on Zoom.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I'm hoping we'll utilize it a little bit more. We're doing that WebEx for a while, which I think we'll still do for our grant reviews because apparently it's more secure. But just for convenience of talking to our grant seekers, everybody has Zoom and everybody's used to Zoom, so it just makes more sense. So
when we started, because we have Microsoft Office 365, we started using the Teams to be able to talk to people and using that software to be able to use to people, but it wasn't as easy for people to click on the link than like Zoom is.
Yeah, I didn't find Teams to be as user-friendly at all. We were trying all forums when we were all working remotely, so.
We just got another person that signed up for this board development. Just now I get a notice from Eventbrite that says somebody else signed in, has paid for it.
Maybe they just want to watch the recording, so we'll get on that editing.
If we can edit the first one, I would love to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it looks like you just do it straight from your account. You just go into the recordings and click on it and there should be little scissors.
Yeah, because when I record to my computer and not the cloud.
Okay.
Because I don't know where the cloud is, and I know where I can find them on my computer. I'll look and see if I can edit both.
Okay, this one's it's seeming pretty straightforward, so just let me know how I can help.
Okay. Hey, David, we have about a minute and a half.
Okay, go ahead. Tell them 1 minute left. I think folks are pretty much done.
But so how was it?
Pardon?
How was it?
You know, the duties of the legal duties are one of those. It's like, but they're so necessary, right?
Exactly.
I mean, they really are necessary. So
we got about 30 seconds.
Okay, I'm going to.
And there's probably a good, I think they're all pretty even, the groups.
Yeah, they were.
Okay.
Yep. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen.
Let me, 30
Actually,
seconds.
You know what? I'm not going to share my screen yet.
Okay, I'm going to close the rooms. So we'll give them 10 seconds and they should be back.
Sounds good.
They should be starting to come back.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I heard some good discussion and some good conversation. So let's go ahead. Duty of care team. Who is? And I was in there, but I don't remember who's reporting out.
I am.
Hi, Cassandra.
Hello. All right, so duty of care. Board members exercise their best judgment in making decisions on behalf of the organization. So we had a lot of great conversation about what that looks like in our different organizations. Ultimately, it starts from the top down with the board setting the structure so that board members are aware of what the responsibilities are. And then there is that ongoing communication, trainings. So letting board members know as, the needs of the nonprofit change or what that mission is. And then there was a lot of talk about maintaining that vision and consistency, collaboration, and ultimately for the board. When you have a board, you're going to have conflict of interest or even, some different personalities that may keep you from forward movement. But ultimately, to overcome that challenge, you have to remember what the mission is and use that as your guiding force. Yep.
Okay. And so I'm in agreement with all of those, right? And a couple other ideas that a couple other ideas to add to that, right? As a board member, make sure that you are informed, attend the meetings, right? As an executive director or as a board member, make sure that you are keeping track of attendance, and then know your financials, right? We'll get into that a little bit later, but if you don't have the information that you need to make a decision, to make a quality decision, ask for it. Don't make a decision assuming that everybody else knows the information and you don't, right? Make sure you have a legal obligation to say, okay, I don't understand why we're making this decision or why we're at this point right now. Help me get there. There is something called groupthink. And the duty of care is making sure that you are using as a individual board member, you are using your best discernment. You're not following the group just because that's the will of the group and it's the politically correct thing to do, right? But that you are making your best decision. And if you don't agree with the decision, vote no, right? If you don't agree with it, you need to go on record and vote no. And that doesn't mean that, and I heard Sean say something, and I don't want to steal her thunder, steal the duty of loyalty thunder. So, but it is okay to vote no in a board meeting, right? All right, so duty of care group, Cassandra, thank you so much. I'm right there with you. All right, duty of loyalty. Who is reporting out for the duty of loyalty?
Well, that would be me.
All right, Sean, go for it.
Yes. So we had a lot of really good discussion. So it was really good. So anybody that was on our team, please chime in. One of the things like what David was just referencing, one of the things we talk about in a board meeting, there's gonna be a lot of discussion among board members, and some of them are going to come from different angles on various things, various topics, and we may not all agree as the board. But at the end of the day, when we leave that board meeting, we are unified in that decision. And therefore, we don't leave the board meeting disagreeing with our colleagues and saying, yeah, they voted yes, but I actually voted no, and this is why. We don't do that in a board. As a board member, you are loyal to the organization, you're loyal to each other and the decisions that were made in that moment. So whatever grievances you have, please share it with the board chair, vice chair, even the executive director, what your concerns are, so you can talk that through so that you don't misstep outside of the organization. Because again, the community and your donors and everybody's looking at you as a board member that you're representing the organization well. Because that can get really tricky, especially if you are, if you misstep, that could really hurt the trust of the organization and to the community if you have board members that are disagreeing. And I don't know if you've ever been a part of a board where there's dysfunction, and it's not a good place to be. So just be very careful. We also talked about one of the loyalty pieces is your conflict of interest statements. If you do not have them, please get them. That's like another D&O thing, like get that stuff in place. Every January, that's like your housekeeping month. Like get that stuff signed, get it in the files. So conflict of interest statements. So that way part of your loyalty is that you're putting your stuff aside. So if you have a conflict, you need to disclose that because you do not want to harm the organization. And same with a statement of covenant. You know, we kind of talked about the D&O insurance. You know, our thing is we want to, that's like a selling point to your potential board members, especially when you have owners of companies or they're heads of big companies, you need to make sure they're protected. So that statement of covenant is saying, we value you enough as a board member, we have directors and officers insurance for you. So make sure that stuff's all in place.
Sean,
yeah.
Sean, could you explain to everybody what a statement of covenant is?
Yeah, so it's really going to go in hand with David's whole presentation about your responsibilities as a board member. You're outlining what the board member's responsibilities are, and then what our responsibilities of an organization are for that board member. So the board members have like 10 responsibilities, the organization has like 3. And really it's to make sure that they're protecting that board member and they're valued and all that good stuff. So, and I do have a covenant. I know there was a couple people in our committee that wanted to see it. So Margarita, I don't know if I need to send it to you so you can get it out, however you want to do that, but those would be that's pretty much our discussion. I don't know, Keith, if you have anything to add or.
Yes, Sean, if you could just email that to me, I'll send it out with all the rest of the details.
I can.
You guys had a great conversation.
We did.
And let me echo a couple of things. So the meeting after the meeting, right?
The parking lot conversations.
Right. You don't want those from a strategy perspective. That's fine. You know, that's a fine thing. But you know what? I voted this way. They voted this way. I'm really not happy. But those things can't happen. That is, yeah, you don't want those things happening, right? We leave those in 5th grade. And then we grow up and we become adults, right? Or at least that's the idea. But Sean is dead on. You've got to come out of a board meeting within one accord, and cannot come out, well, I didn't vote for that. I know it's controversial, but I voted yes, I didn't want to. No, can't do that. Keith, I'm going to pick on you though. You made a really good point. So, all right. So we've got somebody on our board that sells insurance. Can I use them as our insurance agent? Keith, you had a good point in there.
Yes, you can use them as your insurance agent as long as the conflict is disclosed and you've done your due diligence to research other insurance agencies and you've gotten comparable bids for comparable scope of work. In some cases in our communities, we may only have one insurance agency or one fill in the blank, what you need for your nonprofit. And so sometimes you can't get away from the conflict, but it's just really critical to have the process established that everyone knows that it's in writing, that it's been reviewed, we review it on a yearly basis, and that it's signed, that there's a signature on the paper that says, I have disclosed this conflict of interest. I would also add that some of this stuff can seem spooky or scary when we talk about insurance or we talk about conflicts. It really can become a very, I think, it was captured well by Sean. It's just something that's done every January. We review our D&O insurance, we get signatures on our conflict of interest. It just becomes part of our process. And really you just take that step forward in establishing it, and it can become very, very much routine and a part of the program.
Yep. I agree, Keith. And I will echo, conflict of interest, not terribly difficult to find. There's plenty of policies out there. So let's go to duty of obedience. Who was our duty of obedience team?
That's me. I'm speaking
All right.
our team.
Candace, go for it.
Hi, everyone. So we first started talking about the importance of having a clear mission for your organization, and then the board really knowing what that mission is and keeping that really at the forefront of all of your interactions with the board. This will help avoid with mission drift, and that really needs to be the lens that we're all using. We also talked about the importance of our policies and procedures, and our board knowing those as well. So that way, if there were any challenges that could, we could use those to help guide us. We talked about the importance of transparency from the board with the community. And so not sweeping things under the rug. And a lot of times, this is why our annual reports are so important to be sharing out with the community. We talked about ensuring the completion of documents, reports, any of the licensing mandates that our individual organizations have, and the board being aware of those too. So that way when you're going to them, they have that understanding. And then we talked about what David had shared with us, the directors and officers insurance. And for those of you that don't know what your next step might be if you don't have that, we talked about that too. And that would really be going to your insurance agent that you currently have to see what they have to offer through that.
I'm going to echo that last point, Candace. If you currently do not have D&O insurance, you probably have some sort of liability insurance, whether it's property, casualty, some sort of liability insurance for the organization. Go to your insurance agent that currently handles that and ask them what it would be, what it would take to have directors and officers insurance. Great points. I like the idea. So Candace, you're dead on. Clear mission statement. One of the things that I did as an executive director was I had our mission statement on everything. At the bottom of every board agenda, there was our mission statement. The bottom of anything that we had, it was our mission statement. On the bottom of the email, mission statement. We kept that mission statement in front of everybody as often as we possibly could, because it's the lens that you make decisions through. And that's where you talk about duty of obedience. It is about making sure that that mission is being fulfilled. Great conversation. Sean, thank you for answering. I love it. Keep it up. So we're going to go into the 10. So those are the 3 legal duties that a board of directors has, right? The duty of care, the duty of loyalty, and the duty of obedience. If something goes into a court, that is what the court will hold board members accountable for, and the organization for. If those 3 things can be checked off, the organization has done their duty, for lack of a better term, okay? But it doesn't quite stop there, right? In looking at BoardSource and in looking at the 10 basic responsibilities of a nonprofit board of directors, we're going to go through those now. I've got a couple examples and I'm going to go through them. As you have a question about any specific one, don't hesitate, bring it up, whether it's in the chat or share your voice if you would, please. And we've talked through some of these already as well. But the number one role that a board has is determining the purpose and direction, right? And I will tell you, when I started as a CEO, I didn't understand this. I thought that it was the CEO's role and the management's role to determine this. And so one of the first things that we did when we started was we started through a strategic planning process. And I presented to the board what I thought that process was going to be. And we were part of that process was the management team and myself coming up with the vision and mission, because the vision and mission hadn't been talked about for about 10 years or so. So we needed to refresh it. And I had 2 board members. So this was my second board meeting. Yeah, my second board meeting. I had 2 board members that said, no, like everything else, but that top part where you as the CEO and you as the management team are going to determine the draft a vision and mission, that's not your role. That's our role as a board of directors. And I will tell you, as a new CEO who thought he had the idea for the vision, that was terrifying to let go. But what I learned was it's not my organization, it's the board's organization, and they have to come up with the vision and mission. And so what they did was they spent a 4-hour chunk of time thinking through what that vision and mission was. And they came up with a much better vision and mission than I would have come up with. Then the other, number 2 is identify and select the executive, whether it's a CEO, whether it's the executive director, but the lead individual inside the organization. And in doing so, creating a clear job description with clear expectations. How often have I seen an organization, yeah, we need an executive director. Okay, what are they going to do? Oh, they're going to lead. You need to be more specific than that, right? Oh, this person's going to be great. Why? Oh, they know the organization. Do they have the qualifications? And they go on a search without having a real understanding of what they're looking for in an executive director, right? So you see the term support. So if you would, Margarita, go ahead, put the second poll up. So the question is, when was the last time in your organization that the executive director was formally evaluated? And I understand if you don't know the answer to that question, that's why we got an unsure. Yeah, go ahead and answer that. But the board is really supposed to evaluate an individual, but also support them, make sure they've got the resources they need, make sure that they are helping the executive director grow, learn, professional development, be there for advice. Go ahead, Margarita. What are the results? Okay. All right. That's pretty good. 42% within the last year. I can tell you it is a lot of nonprofit executives do not get a performance review. And part of I can tell you, I, as a CEO at one point in time, I had to drive that process. In reality, it is the board chair's responsibility to drive that evaluation process. And it's the executive committee's responsibility to drive that that process. Imagine not getting any feedback. That's how executive directors that don't get an evaluation feel. They have no idea if they're doing a good job or a bad job. There's no formality to that. And also typically with an evaluation comes the possibility of an increase in salary or changes in benefits, those types of things. And if an executive director hasn't had that, that's why we have high turnover in executive directors. They're not getting the quality formal feedback that they need from their boards, from their boss. Ask your board members, when was the last time you were evaluated in your full-time job? Chances are it's been in the last year. they probably can't imagine not getting evaluated. So I'm right there with Debbie. It is one of my pet peeves as well. You gotta be evaluated. And then from a planning perspective, making sure that you're doing the planning, not making sure that the board is doing the planning, but making sure that that effective planning is occurring throughout the organization. Come on, mouse doesn't want to work. There we go. Resources. We're going to talk about fundraising next time. That's one of the things where boards go sideways quite often. But you do need to be clear in when recruiting board members in what their responsibility will be in fundraising. Resources. We have two different types of resources in a nonprofit organization. You've got financial resources, and you also have human resources. And those human resources needs to be managed well, both staff human resources and volunteer human resources. So making sure that there are processes in place to manage those human resources. But then from the financial perspective, how many of our financial reports are buried? How many of our financial reports are really understood? As we looked at the 3 duties, specifically the duty of care, it is your legal responsibility to, as a board member, to understand your financial situation as an organization. Make sure the programs are running well, to increase them and to support them. So I will say one thing, this is on strategy, not tactics, and at a high level, not on a day-to-day level. Making sure that the public image, your best champions inside the community should be board members. If your board members do not like your, let me say this differently. Every board member should like your Facebook page, should connect with you through LinkedIn, should have your Instagram page at the top of their page, follow you on Twitter, when they're at a cocktail party after COVID is finished, they should be talking about your organization every chance that they get. They are your #1 champions. And it's their responsibility to be there. Number 9, make sure that the 990 is completed. As a board member, it is required for you to review that 990 before it's submitted, right? Make sure that an audit or a financial review is happening. Ensure that there's an annual report. When there's transitions inside the organization, be transparent about what's going on inside the organization. We talked about trust, right? You gotta have the board, and the way board members talk about the organization is either going to build trust inside the community, or it's going to tear trust down. And that is critical. And then, of course, finding new board members and holding board members accountable, right? And assessing the board's performance. As we talked about last time, it is a board member responsibility to get new high quality board members. So that's in a nutshell, those are the 10 responsibilities of a board of directors. I know we went through those relatively quickly, but as you look at the 3 duties of care, or the 3 legal responsibilities, they align completely with the 10 basic responsibilities of a board of directors, right? And so they go hand in hand. But I will tell you, a board must do legally the 3 duties. They need to do these 10 basic responsibilities in order to be successful. So I know we're close to time. I think we've got time for one or two questions. So let me open it up, whether it's in the chat or bring your voice. What questions do you have?
David, I have a question about, you know, we do work with our GuideStar profile. I did a training on that yesterday and updating that. And I know they ask for an audited financial statement.
Yep.
You know, those are quite expensive for small nonprofits. And if you're not having audited, you need to have review. What's the best way to do that? That's something we're looking at doing better.
So let me make sure I'm understanding the question. If not a financial audit, what is the best way to do a financial review?
Mm-hmm. Who's the best person to do that?
So
do you bring an outside person? Do you have a team?
The whole idea behind the financial review and the financial audit is independence. Mm-hmm. Having somebody that is not management and not a board member doing that review. So that way, and again, I do understand the financial challenge, right, between those. So I would suggest talking to an accounting firm that does those. And there are a number of organizations and even 1- and 2-person shops that do financial reviews inside local communities for relatively inexpensive. I would also say from a board perspective, it's the cost of doing business. It's the cost of having a phone line, the cost of having an office, the cost of having an executive director, right? It is the cost of doing business, is being transparent and having that financial review. But independence is the key piece to either both an audit and the financial review.
So our accountant has written, you know, we do use an accountant, and they have written a letter of stating that, you know, that things have been reviewed. I mean, they do it every month. So, you know, so they have written a letter for us before, but is that enough? Or do we have to have somebody that's not our accountant do it?
I would say somebody that's not your accountant, because your accountant has a vested interest in it.
Yeah, okay. That's what I thought, but
yep.
Thank you.
So we are at time. I'm going to turn it over to Margarita, but just so you know, if there are more questions, I'm around. I'll be around for the next half hour or so. But next time we are going to be looking at, so next time we are on March 11th, we're going to dive deeper into those 10 responsibilities. And specifically, we're looking at where boards go sideways sometimes. That's going to be a fun conversation. Some interesting things come up, right? But again, an honor, thrilled to be here. Margarita, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you to wrap us up.
Thank you, David. And thank you all for joining us. And I just want to remind you, like David said, next month, March 11th, we'll be covering the rest of the second part of board responsibilities. And then the next quarter starts April 8th with sharing your story. If you're signed up for that, you should have already received one notification with the Zoom link for the first session, but we'll be sending that out again. Tomorrow, you'll get the recording for this session and the evaluation survey for you to reply to, and also any documents like Sean was going to share her documents, and I'll have those attached as well. If anybody else would like to share any documents concerning their board, you know, if there's a checklist, or maybe you have a memo of understanding with your board members that they need to sign when they come on, anything like that, I'd love to have it. If you can send it to me by tomorrow morning, I can attach those so that everybody will get those. I appreciate your time today. I think Debbie or Sarah, if you guys have anything else, if not, I will sign off with everybody.
I don't think so. We had some great conversations, and I was glad to see everybody this morning.
Thank you, and have a good day, everyone.
Brad, I know you had a question.
We'll see if Marguerite, don't end it, Marguerite. I just want to touch base with David here real quick before you sign off.
Wait, yeah, hang on a second. Let me.
Oh, were you going to talk to the ladies, were you?
That's okay. Hang on.
David, I'll give you a quick phone call.
Okay. No.
No, hold on, Brad. You can, Corinne, are you there?
She had put in the chat that she was working via the phone and couldn't. Nope,
Okay,
I guess
there she
not.
is. Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
We won't listen if that's okay, Brad.
Well, I don't want to slow you guys down. I don't have any
we're
problem with
fine.
that. The thing I'm just going to bring about, and maybe you'll catch on it during the 10 responsibilities. Sometimes the transition from nonprofit boards, organizations that are going through from that startup to growth to maturity phase, is the involvement of the board in day-to-day operations.
Yep.
And so just kind of sharing with them that process of eventually when you get to a mature organization, the board really needs to be focused on just controlling the executive director. Yep. And not the employees of the organization and things like that. So just kind of maybe touch, as you talk about things getting into the weeds or off tracks with boards, that was just something that jumped into my head.
Well, not controlling, but governing, I think, Brad.
Right. The board's got a responsibility of governing, not managing. Yep. That is definitely something that we're going to be talking about next time.
Good, because I know some of our agencies that are dealing with that.
Yep. Thanks, David.
No problem. Thanks, Brad. Really appreciate it.
And he's gone.
All right. Oh, we're still recording, by the way.
Oh, sorry. That's all right, Sarah.